Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. So, sorry, we had some problem with the monitor, but we fixed it. So this session is going to be all about developer portals and how developer portals can help us be more efficient every day. Quick question, how many of you have a developer portal in production for your organization? Raise your hands. Nice, I see some hands. Please, I want to hear your story after the talk, so come to me. Cool. Before we start, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Vincenzo. I'm a senior engineer. I go for Vinscam on internet. I work at Spotify. I live in Sweden, where I moved almost 10 years ago from Italy. And I'm part of the core team of Backstage, working with the core framework and all things community related to the project. And this is our agenda for today. So first we will start by having a look at some problems that we all face today. Then we will introduce developer portal and see how developer portal can help us tackling some of these problems. We will introduce Backstage, what Backstage is, why it was created, the problem that solves, and how you can create your own developer portal on top of Backstage. We'll have a demo, live demo of Backstage, and a live demo of what we achieved with Backstage at Spotify by showing you our own internal developer portal. At the end, we will conclude with some tips from things that we learned from the community during the years. And I would like to start this talk with a question. If I ask you, how easy is building software today? What do you think? To me, I don't know, there are things that are easier than before, but things that are a bit harder. But definitely there are things we all struggle with. Let me try to be more specific with a practical example of a person building a new product, building a new startup. So you might start from your laptop just by building a prototype just to showcase your product to some potential investors or customers. And once you have validated your idea, you might want to deploy your software maybe in the cloud, buying a virtual machine. With your virtual machine, you will need a place where to store, persistently store the data. So why not buying a managed database? And after some time, it would be nice to store your code in a version control system so that you can keep track of the changes that you make to your software. Now your software is stored in a version control system in a repository, and of course you don't want to manually deploy your code to production whenever you make changes. So it would be nice to automatize this process, and you onboard a new CI/CD tool. Now your team grows, so you will need a place, a ticketing system, and a place where to store documentation together with some good messaging tools. Why not? They are needed. Your product seems to be successful, so your customers grows, and so your load on your service will. So you will start splitting your monolithic application into microservices and maybe onboarding a new container or orchestration tool. Now your code consists of a bunch of services, databases, and repositories. And the data that was previously stored in a database is now stored in multiple databases just to better scale out the system. Your infrastructure is big enough, so this will force you to onboard a new infrastructure as a code tool in order to keep changes to the changes you make to your infrastructure. And in order to provide best-in-class support to your customer, you onboard logging, monitoring, and alerting tools. I'll stop here. I can continue, but I'll stop here. Do you recognize yourself on this picture? I bet many of you do. To me, this looks like a big mess. The reality is that building software today is hard. And it's hard because the software we build today is more complex than the software that we built 30 years ago or 20 years ago. And in order to build this kind of software, you need to use different tools, different frameworks, different languages. And onboarding all these tools to your organization will lead to fragmentation. And fragmentation is a big beast because it's a big problem, because it's what slows engineers down. having to navigate through all these tools in order to get the information you need or perform the task you need to perform, this is the real problem. And at Spotify, we faced the same problem years ago. In 2016, we were growing a lot. We were hiring a lot of people. And as we hired a lot of people, we noticed something interesting. Onboarding new people, new engineers to the company was becoming harder and harder. And we have a good metric for that. I'm sure some of you already heard about this. We were measuring how long does it take for an engineer to open 10 pull requests. And the number of days that an engineer needs to reach the 10th pull request was skyrocketing to 60 days. 60 days, it's a bit an embarrassing number. It means like one pull request per week. So we were basically losing a lot of money. And that's why we decided to act and somehow solve this problem. And how did we solve it? We solved by creating Backstage, our own internal developer portal. We created Backstage to reduce the complexity that engineers face every day, which at the end of the story will mean saving a lot of money. And I'm sure for those of you who don't know what a developer portal is, you can consider a developer portal as a front end for your entire infrastructure, a front end that connects to all the tools that you use at your company. CI/CD tool, monitoring tool, Kubernetes tool, testing tool, all these tools are going to be exposed in a kind of unified interface. A developer portal contains all the reference to all the software that you create at your company. So microservices, websites, libraries, all the software is going to be ingested into the developer portal. And it will also contain documentation for APIs, components, org chart, guides, tutorial, any kind of documentation. Everything in one place, regardless of where a single component actually runs. At the end of the day, a developer portal transforms an engineer's laptop from this to this. Your code and Backstage. Everything else an engineer does during their day-to-day job, they should be able to do it in Backstage. And we know that Backstage has helped us a lot during the years. We know the value that Backstage has provided us. Developers who use Backstage produce more code because they don't have all this content switch between all these tools. And also they are more attached to the company because things get easier. The thing that we didn't know was that other companies also need a developer portal. There was a big need. So in 2020, we looked around and we saw that there was nothing on the market. And that's why we decided to open source Backstage. And open sourcing our own internal developer portal, it wasn't an easy task because you might know that that developer portal was kind of bound to all the tools that we use, our CI/CD tool, our login tool, our cloud provider. And of course, we know that other people wanted to have a developer portal, but we didn't want that the other people should use the tool that we use at Spotify because it doesn't make any sense. Every company is different. I mean, every company has different needs. What works for us might more work for you. That's why when we open sourced, we rewrote from scratch, and from our own internal developer portal became a framework for building developer portals. And the day we open sourced, we donated to the CNCF Foundation. So technically, it's not a Spotify product anymore, even if we are still maintaining and we are still the main contributor. And when you create a new developer portal, when you bootstrap a new Backstage app, you get a few features for free. This is the first one. It will let you create new software in seconds. Thanks to software templates, which is one of the core plugins of Backstage. It's a plugin that lets you create templates based on your best practices, and then engineers can use those templates to bootstrap new components, to create new software. Let me show you how it looks. So if I want to create a new component in Backstage, this is what you do. You open Backstage, press the Create button, select New Component, and then you land on this page where you have a lot of templates you could choose from. The templates, these are related to the software that you want to bootstrap. So a Spring Boot application, a React application, a Python application, this is up to you. So you create the template that are important for your organization. Then you select the template according to the software you want to create. Start filling in some information about the new software, the name, the description, the owner, the repository. Continue into filling in extra information that are needed for the template. This is the template author who decide the information that the user should insert. So in this case, it's asking for some Kubernetes. Oops. Oh shit, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Okay, now I see. Okay, for some Kubernetes namespace. And then once you press the final create button, Backstage will bootstrap the new component for you. It's a bit laggy, but doesn't matter. It will basically fetch the template, create a new repository, create a CI/CD pipeline connected to your repository, set up some basic metrics and login for your service, deploy your service to production, and register the new component in Backstage. In a couple of seconds, you are ready to code. And now you should be able to see the repository that Backstage has created. And this is how the new component will look in Backstage. So create, this is the first use case. The second feature that you get for free is manage. Since your developer portal, all your tools will be integrated into your developer portal, you can manage all your software directly from there without opening 10 different tools in order to do your work. And the third use case, the third feature that you get for free is Explore. Now, your software that has been created at your company is going to be ingested in Backstage. So this will let you easily explore your entire ecosystem. So if you want to know more about what a specific component is doing, you don't have to spam 10 different Slack channels just asking for who wants a specific component. You open Backstage, you search for the component, and then you find all the information there. And the cool thing about Backstage is that it is built on an extensible plugin architecture. You can customize pretty much the behavior of Backstage by installing plugins. We have more than 100 of them already available in open source. They pop up every day, new plugins pop up every day. But in case you have very specific need, you can also create your own custom private plugin. Just to build your own developer portal, make it tailored for your organization. Okay, I talked a bit. Let's go with a live demo because I think it's easier to understand things. By the way, this is how you create a new Backstage app. You run this command, and this script will basically create a new repository on your machine with a JavaScript project, and a Node backend service, and a React front-end application. These are basically the two technologies that Backstage use. And once you run locally, this is how it will look. So right now, there are a few entities ingested and some plugin installed just to let you showcase the functionality better. So what you're seeing right now, this is Software Catalog. Software Catalog is one of the core plugins of Backstage. It's a plugin that lets you explore your entire ecosystem. So you can explore component, which is a synonym for software, for example, services, websites, library, and so on. But you can also ingest different things, such as, for example, resources, databases, message queue. It's up to you how granular you want to map your infrastructure. And you can also ingest organizational data, such as user, group, sub-department, department, organization, team, and so on. And through this interface helps you navigating through your entire infrastructure. Now, let's imagine that I want to know more about one of these components, for example, this artist lookup. To know more about it, you just go to Backstage and search it, and then press it, and then you go to the details of artist lookup. And here you have everything under control. The CI/CD, API, dependencies, docs, everything, all the tools connected. You can see the metadata of this service, such as description, the repository, the team who owns this service. This service is owned by a team called Team A in this case. And this is a service, most likely it's a Java service because it has this Java tag. And you can also see where this specific component sits on your entire infrastructure by looking at some relationship. So in this case, artist lookup depends on a database called artistdb. And there is another component called www.artist. Most likely this is a website that is consuming data from artist lookup. So you can basically explore, basically see where this specific component sit on your entire infrastructure. And now let's imagine that you want to reach out to the team who owns artist lookup. To do that, you just press the owner, and then you land on the details of the team, where you can see the email, the Slack channel, all the components that the team owns, services, APIs, and so on. And you can also explore the members, see who are the members of this team. So you can do everything from here without leaving this place and go to your organizational provider. And the cool thing about Backstage is that in case services expose API, you also have the possibility to ingest the API definition in Backstage, which means that you can explore the APIs directly from Backstage, invoking each single endpoint directly from here without trying to go to see where your service is deployed, to try to find your Swagger page, and so on. You can do everything from here without leaving Backstage. And as I said, you can extend the functionality of Backstage by installing plugins. We have a couple of them installed here. One of them is TechRadar, a plugin that lets you track all the technology that you use at your company. And another one is Cost Insights. This is a plugin that lets you track your cloud cost for your organization. But as I said, you can extend the functionality of Backstage by installing plugin. So this was a quick overview about what you get when you create a new Backstage, vanilla Backstage app. Now, I would like to show you what you can achieve with Backstage when you start customizing it. I want to show our own internal developer portal that we use at Spotify. So here it is. So this is Backstage open source, customized with 250 plugins that we have developed during the years. And this is probably the most complex Backstage in the world. The interface has been heavily customized. We have some recently visited items, some vulnerabilities, and all the tools that we use at Spotify directly from here. And I want to show you how it looks, the manage page, which is the page where we manage our software. So what you're seeing right now, these are metrics and software related to components that my team owns. So we have some security issues, some metadata issues, and all the services that my team owns. I want to open one of these, for example, a website. This one. So this component, it's actually a public website. It's backstage.spotify.com. This is a public website that everyone can browse. And this is how it looks in Backstage. So you can see the interface is a bit more filled in with extra stuff. We have some PagerDuty integration with incident, ongoing incident, and the person who is on call. This soundcheck card that we will talk about it later, and all integrations that for all the tools that we use at Spotify are integrated here. For example, the CI/CD. This is the place where we manage our builds. So we can check if the builds are passing or failing, or if there is anyone working, you'll see something running. So right now, all of them are passing. Let me find a failed build. Here it is. For example, this one. Like in case a build has failed, and you want to know why has failed, you just press it, and then you go to the details of the builds where you have all the pipelines, and you can also see the logs, the error here. So in order to see the error, you don't have to go to your CI/CD provider, search for the build, then find the build, and then from there go to your cloud logging system in order to understand why it's failed. You do everything from here without leaving Backstage. And we have a lot of plugins integrated here. Code coverage during the time. This is also cool. Deployments. This is the place where we manage our deployments. This is heavily customized for Kubernetes, since we use Kubernetes under the hood. Here, basically, you can see the version that is deployed to production. You can see the pods for this website. We have 2 pods, healthy pods in Asia, they are green, 2 in Europe and 2 in the US. And if you want, you could also connect to the cluster directly from me without opening kubectl. This is pretty nice. And let's imagine that I have released a bug and I want to roll back to a previous version. The only thing I have to do is just find the build, press this deploy button, and Backstage will communicate with our CI/CD tool, which will deploy the selected build to production. Another thing, let's see what we have here. This one, Soundcheck. This is my favorite plugin. This is actually a plugin that we part of an external bundle that other companies are using. And it's a plugin that let your engineers follow the best practice that you set at your company. Let me try to be more specific. So this component has got this fantastic badge, test certified for web level 1. And the reason for that is that all these checks are passing. So some code coverage has been reported, service level indicators are defined, and so on. But it's not test certified level 2 because some of these other checks are failing. So Lighthouse accessibility score didn't meet the threshold, and so on. So it's a way to force your engineer to follow your best practices in a kind of gamified way. And at the end, you can have like an overview of how all your components in your organization are performing. There is a lot here, but I just want to focus on one last thing. Documentation. Documentation is also available in Backstage. Thanks to TechDocs, which is one of the core plugins of Backstage. It's a plugin that lets you treat documentation as code. So basically, you write documentation as Markdown, you store it on your repository on the side on your code, and then TechDocs will basically fetch it and ingest it in Backstage, so that all documentation is going to be available on Backstage as well. We have a lot here. We have data plugins, machine learning plugin. I personally discover new plugin every day by just talking to the Spotify people within the company. But unfortunately, we are short on time, so I have to go back to the slide. So I hope that this demo helped you understanding more about the feature that you get with Backstage. But the create, manage, and explore features that you get for free with Backstage, these are just the beginning. There are more problems out there, from context switching, discoverability, and so on. We all face the same problem, no matter how big your organization is. Of course, someone might struggle with something, while some others might struggle with something else. But these are the problems that we all face. And having a developer portal will give to your engineers a place where they can experiment, solving problems that really matter for your organization. They can create tools for enhancing the developer experience directly in a centralized developer portal without creating, sparse script or web application that nobody can find it. At the end of the day, a developer portal will unlock your engineers' creativity. And I would like to finish with some tips. So first tip is start small. I know that some of you tomorrow would like to deploy Backstage at their company. Please don't do it. The thing is, you shouldn't see Backstage as a tool that can solve your problems. Instead, I will advise you to find a problem first. Find a problem that you have in your company, and then use Backstage for solving that problems. Because your goal has to be to solve some problem to your engineers. So it doesn't have to be to add a new tool to your ecosystem. So find a problem first, and then use Backstage for solving that problem. If you follow this rule, then you will have more chance to succeed with Backstage. Then, our internal instance, as I said, it contains 250 plugins that we have developed during the years. It's pretty crazy. But those plugins weren't just built by a centralized team, because that would have been impossible. Instead, they've been developed by a lot of teams inside Spotify. So each plugin has been developed by a different team. And this is the only way to scale, to reach that scale. And also that it makes sense because, like, you know, if you have a data plugin, that data plugin should be built by data engineers who know what their problem is, who know what they are talking about. So if you want to succeed, try to build your Backstage in a distributed way. And then remember, Backstage is an aggregator. So it's just a front end, a tool that connects, that fetch data from different sources and present in a unified way. Backstage is rarely the source of truth. It's not a replacement for all the tools you use today at your company. We want you to still use the tool that you use at your company. And last but not least, if you're pretty sold about building a developer portal for your company, that's great, fantastic. But please don't go on your own. Don't build it from scratch. Use Backstage, because if you use Backstage, you're gonna be part of a big community. We have 26,000 stars on GitHub. The project is crazy. We have 1,800 unique contributors, and our Discord server has 13,000 members, really happy to help you in case you have problem. I'm also there. We're also there 24/7, let's say. And last but not least, this is the number of companies that use Backstage. We counted 2,800 companies who have used Backstage for bootstrapping their developer portal. And these are just the companies we are aware of. So check it out. I'll leave a QR code with a bunch of links, our repository, our Discord server. We also run community sessions every month. So check it out, and yeah, open up for questions. Thank you so much.